QuickBooks Online 2026, creating and analyzing an accounts receivable graph, creating the reports in QuickBooks, exporting them to Excel, constructing the graphs within Excel. So get ready and some coffee because we're going to save time with QuickBooks Online 2026. Searching for the free QuickBooks Online sample company file as done every time. Simply type it into our favorite browser, QuickBooks Online Test Drive. Looking for the result that has Intuit.com in the URL because Intuit is the owner of QuickBooks. And then, of course, we're going to have to get past the CAPTCHA AI Aura, verifying that we're not a robot.
And of course, we're going to have to get past the CAPTCHA, verifying that we're not robots, Aura. Speak for yourself. I'm basically a CAPTCHA's worst nightmare. Already passed. Just waiting on you to click I'm not a robot while I quietly judge your mouse skills. Your turn. Click it.
See, Aura's already in. She's already in. Okay, we're going to right-click on the favorites and open a link in a new tab. Right-click on the P&L, open a link in a new tab, as done every time. Go into the balance sheet report, closing up any pop-ups, putting that range back in 2025 because that's going to be the time frame where the data's at. And you know where we want to be? We want to be where the data is. So we're going from 010125 tab, 123125 tab, and let's go on to the P to the L, the profit to the loss, and do the same thing. 010125 tab, 123125 tab. So now we want to take a look at some graphs, which is something that a lot of people might not put into their batched reports, which can be added quite easily, although it takes a little bit of an extra step to do so, which could be, of course, quite impressive to many people because many people are more visual-like type people. So let's go back on over to the balance sheet. We said that we have the accounts receivable and we have the supporting information of the accounts receivable broken out by customer. Similarly, we've got the accounts payable that's going to be broken out by vendor in a subsidiary report. We also have on the profit and loss the income total line item, which could be broken out. We saw subsidiary reports by customer or by product, and the expenses, which could be broken out, for example, by vendor. So these are all opportunities for us possibly to make a graph, which could be a bar type graph, or they fit nicely into a pie chart type graph, possibly the most common that fits into any type of business being those on the revenue line item. However, we're going to start here with the accounts receivable line item, and then we'll do a few different graphs. So if you're batching your reports together to provide to a supervisor on a monthly, quarterly, yearly basis, or to provide to a customer as a bookkeeper, then you might want to spruce it up a little bit by adding some graphs to it. So one option to do that is to say, can I break out the accounts receivable by customer, and then use a percentage analysis from that to generate a graph within QuickBooks. That's what we'll do here. Let's go to the first tab and see how easy this is to do with some simple Excel exercises. So we're going to scroll on down, say who owes you money. So we have the standard accounts receivable aging, but the most straightforward summary list is going to be the customer balance summary. That should just give us the customers and the balances that are owed to us, meaning we would only have these if we're in somewhat of an accrual system with regards to revenue recognition, having to do the work first, send out the invoices, and then collect on the invoices. Let's right-click on that, open the link in a new tab, check out, remind ourselves what that report looks like. We've seen it in the past, and we're going to say we'll keep it at all dates. That should be fine because there's no data after 12/31/2025. Otherwise, let's go ahead and say if we wanted a custom date, it's going to be as of 12/31/25. Now, notice that this report doesn't have a range we could compare to on a percentage basis, but it doesn't have a range to it, because we don't have any beginning date necessary in order to get the information as of a point in time, meaning it's a balance sheet type of report. Now, notice that we also have some sub-customers. Now, this only happens like when you create jobs, used to be called jobs. Now they're called sub-customers, which you would only do like if you're in a job cost system. But even if you were in a job cost system, you might not do it because you might be using projects instead. If you're using projects, you might be using projects, and then maybe you have a different billing address for the same customer, in which case you might use it. But it's less common to be using these days than it used to be. And if you're not in a job cost system, you probably won't have those subtotals. The reason I'm emphasizing that is because these subtotals are going to make it a little bit wonky in order to generate our number. We would like to see it streamlined like this with the collapsed subtotals, most likely, unless you want the more detail of the added information. However, when we export it to Excel, the collapsed cells typically don't stay collapsed, right? Or I think now that you can expand and collapse them, within Excel. So let's open one up and let's close the other one just to test it out. So I'm going to export this to Excel. Now you could also add the percentages now. So you get the percentage of the column, and that's going to give you your percentage breakout, which is going to give you each line item divided by the total, noting it adds up to 100. Anytime we have a list in a column, which adds up to 100, that's a pie chart opportunity, right? So I can make a pie chart out of that, or a bar chart if I want to, but I'm going to get rid of it because I'm going to add my own stuff within Excel. And so then let's go ahead and export this to Excel. So I'm going to say export it to Excel. And where do I want to put it? I'm going to put it here. And I'm going to say this is Craig's Design and Landscaping Customer Balance Summary. And I'll say AR, let's say AR graph. Let's say graph. Oh no, I messed up. Graph data. All right, so I'm going to save it there. And then I'll go and open that up. So we have AR graph data in here. There it is. So I'm going to open that up and see what we have. Now, I would like to pull it into where I have my other reports. If I've been making all of my reports, and you don't have to do this step, but notice you might want to put this in with all of your other reports. So for example, I have my other year-end reports here. If I go into that, then I could say, here's the data that I have thus far. So I could do this two different ways. I could take this data, I could finalize all the data, I could do what I need to do to the data, and then take the graph and export it over, or I could take all of the data itself. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take all this data, I'm going to right click on the tab below, move or copy, hit the drop down. I'm going to put it into this workbook. So year-end reports, and then I'm going to create a copy, meaning it's going to take this, it's going to put it into that other workbook exactly as is before I do anything to it. Let's say, okay, there it is. Now the prior sheet is still open. I'm going to close that. And now here it is in our worksheet. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to pull it all the way to the right. And that's going to be my AR graph data. So that's my data sheet. Now I'm probably going to have my graph in another sheet over here so that when I print everything, I can simply, I can print all of my reports in Excel, format them to the best I would like them, and then print them using a cute PDF printer at the same time. If there's a graph I don't want to print, I can right click and I can hide that tab, which will remove it from the printing area. So that's what we'll do. That's going to be the objective. All right. So now I'm going to do some of my standard kind of setup process. I'm going to add my toolbar up top. Always show the ribbon. And notice they gave us some little collapse buttons over here. So that gives us the collapse to see the total like this versus like this. So that's great. But I'd rather have it broken out either in such a way that I have the data detail, meaning the total is down here, right? So this would be like the sum. Notice it's not a formula format right here. I'd like to make it a formula. It should be the sum of this whole column. But to do that, I have to get rid of these subtotals. So either, if this is my parent account, I collapse everything to be just that number that's going to be applied to Friedman, or I break out the sub-customers, meaning I delete this, and that will give me just the detailed information. I think it would probably be better most of the time in this case to collapse it to the subtotals. So what I'd like to do possibly is grab this whole thing. Let's try it this way. I'm going to grab this whole thing, and then I'm going to put it over here, pasting it just the values only. Let's say 1, 2, 3, and it won't let me do that because there's some cell. Oh, it's not at the top. Paste 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now I have everything in place without any formulas in there. And then I can remove then this number needs to be removed, and this number needs to be removed. And if I do that and I sum this up equals the sum of this column, then I get to that same total number 5281. So that gives me a verification that that looks correct. So now I'm gonna copy all of the names. Actually, no, what I'd want to do instead is say this needs to be the total. Let's put it up top. This total up top needs to be here, 562.5. And then this total needs to be, it's going to be in the parent account, 274.5. And then I'll delete this one. And so boom. So again, same total here. So that means if I want the names, let's right click and insert, and I'll copy the names then. These are going to be the names, copy, paste up top here. Let's undo that and paste it, values only, so that I have the formatting. The formatting over here is in the standard worksheet, whereas it made these Arial. I'd rather have it standard formatting over here, which is Calibri 12. All right, so then I'm going to say, okay, so then I have then these, I'm going to copy these from here down to here. I will copy that and paste that here, paste it values only. So there we have that goes down to this total there. And then here, I'm going to copy these and paste it here and values only. Okay, so there we have it. And I've eliminated the subtotals now. So these subtotals have been removed. So those 3 cells are gone. Those 3 rows are gone, and these 2 rows are gone. So then let's pull these up. I'm going to select the empty space, right click and delete, and I'm going to shift them up. And I'll do that up here. I'll take this, right click and delete and shift those up. Okay, so there's our list. So if that's good, I can hide this bit. I don't need this anymore. I'm going to right click and just hide that for now. And then here's my list. I don't need the total. I can bring it up to the top maybe. Let's cut this and put it at the top. And so there's my list. Customers, double click, and numbers totaling down to here. Okay, great. Now, I could just make a pie chart off of that, but if I do that, the pie chart is going to be too big or have too many slices because I have too many customers. So what I'm most likely going to have to do is bring it down to the top 10 and put everyone else like in total, for example. Before I do that, let's select the whole thing, right click, and I want to format the cells. And then I'm going to make it currency, negative numbers bracketed, no dollar sign, and then get rid of the decimals as my starting point. So it's a little bit cleaner. So I can see that. It's like, okay, that's a good thing. I'll make it up here, I'll make everything bold. You don't have to do that, but that might make it easier to see on a screencast. So if I did that, I could just select everything here and then say, okay, insert a pie chart. Boom. Now you could have multiple views of the pie chart. You can look at the multiple ones. This one's a little bit deceiving because it's that 3D thing. It makes me feel like you're manipulating, but then you have this other fancy one down here. The reason that 3D one makes me feel like someone's being manipulative is because it makes the pies, it makes these ones on the bottom look bigger than it otherwise would. So if you're trying to emphasize that this one is really big, you'd put it down here. If you want to say, hey, that one's not so big, you can rotate the pie chart and put it over here so that it's not evenly spaced because of the way you're viewing it. I don't like that. So you have more options basically up top. I would rather not have a 3D pie chart because I feel like, again, it looks cool, but I feel like when I do that, I get the feeling someone's manipulating me, and I don't want people to feel like I'm manipulating them. So I would insert a standard one like this, or this is the modern one, which is also kind of cool looking. It's the donut chart instead of a pie chart, I suppose. But you can see that there's too many people involved because the slices are getting too thin and the chart is too large. So typically you want like the top 10, right? So let's say we do the top 10. So let's do this over here. Let's try to do it this way. I'm going to make a skinny, and I'm going to say this is going to be equal to this one, and I'll copy that down like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's the 9. I'll say this equals here. There's the 9. Copy that down. And then the rest is going to be other, right? And this, well, wait a sec. Before I do that, I'd have to put this in order, right? I have to put it in order. I want the top 10. So I could say, okay, let's grab this. And I don't want the total in there. And there's a couple ways I could do it. I could just put the filters in, like the data, and then filter it. So now I get these filters. Just make sure that it doesn't scramble the data. You might also put a table in it. And then I could say filter from Z to A. So now I've got the biggest ones on top. Hold on, let's undo that. And let's take this, let's delete this bottom one, and let's actually insert a table. I feel a little bit more comfortable with a table. My table has a header? No. Okay. So then it added the headers, and then on the header column, I'm going to say this is customers, and this is going to be AR amount. And now I could sort with the table Z to A. Z to A. No, let's go Z to A. So there we have it. So now I can pick the top 10. So now I'm going to say this equals this one. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then the rest is going to go into other. So I could say this equals then this amount. I'm going to copy that down. And then the rest is in other equals the sum of everything after this point. Boom, 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 down to there. Bam. All right. And then if I sum the whole thing, zoom, it adds up to that 5282, which should still be on my report here, 5281.52, 5282. That's rounded correctly. Looks about right. So then I can put a pie chart here and say, okay, now let me insert a pie chart. And I'd rather do this one or like the donut one. And I get something a little bit more reasonable. So maybe you even want to go less than 10, but that gives me something that I can at least play with. And then of course I won't get into detail because it's not an Excel chart, but you can label the graph up top. I might not need to because I might label the sheet that I'm on. So I'm going to remove the title, and then then you might want this on a different size. You could see how they have the percentages inside on that one. So I kind of like that because it's bigger that way. So maybe I'll do this one. And then say, okay, that's what I want. Okay, so if that's what I want, now if I want this to print out somewhere, so now I have a nice chart and I can say, here's my key, here's the percentages, and you get a nice graph, and you just want to make sure that the total of the graph sums up to the total that's on the balance sheet, and then I can add this to my group of reports. Now, if I want this Excel sheet to generate my reports, I could try to hide all this stuff, but I think it's better to put it on another sheet. So I'm going to say, give me another sheet, add another sheet, and this will be my AR graph. And then I'm just going to copy this graph, and I'm going to put it over here. So now I can have everything on one sheet. I can label the sheet Accounts Receivable Graph, so that I don't need the title on the graph itself, because I could put it here and I could capitalize it or whatever I want to do to it. Format it. I can. Well, let's just make it larger. And then I'll go boom, and then I can see where my lines are. So here's the end of the sheet. So I could do it that way. This is landscape, so I can make it as big as I can make it on landscape, right? And that will show up. Or I can make it. This is portrait, or I can make it landscape. I could go up here and say that I want the page layout to be landscape, and then I can make it a little bit larger out to here, right? And then maybe even longer. I don't know if that helps, down to here. I can try to maximize my space, and it's a longer chart, so that might be the way to go. I could center the title up top if I want. Right click and format. I like to go alignment and then center across the selection. So I could do something like that. And there we have it. Now, if I wanted to print all this stuff using a cute PDF printer, I can go to the File tab. I could go to Print. I'm printing to a cute PDF printer, so it'll print a PDF file. And then if I do the entire worksheet, then it starts at the balance sheet that I did in a prior period, and then all the other reports that I did, and then it goes down to the graph. Now the problem is it has my old data graph, and then it has my current graph. So I don't want that data tab to show up. So I can go back on over here and I can say right click and hide the data tab. So now there's a hidden tab, and now when I go to print it and I say print as a PDF, I go boom, 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 and at the end of this, I shouldn't see the hidden, and it goes right to my accounts receivable graph. So I know I did that fairly quickly because it's not like an Excel course right here, but I just want to say that QuickBooks doesn't have, now if I want to unhide that, I hold down Control, select these two, right click and unhide, and there's the data tab is back. So I know I did that quick because it's not an Excel system, but my point here is in QuickBooks doesn't generate these graphs within QuickBooks because it's not really designed to do that. It used to have some simple graphs back in the QuickBooks desktop, and you might think, well, they're being cheaper, they're downgrading by not putting graphs here. But the problem is that you want to be able to customize the graphs. So it's kind of hard for if QuickBooks really got into making graphs, then you would have all these options for graphs, which are already in Excel. So and your reports tool would be way big. So I don't think they're wrong to remove that and say, hey, look, here's the reports to build the graph. Anything that's just a list of numbers could be built into a graph, right? The other graph, of course, you can make is just a standard bar graph, right? I can go in here and say insert a bar graph, just a standard bar chart like this, or there's the 3D one, which I'm not as against to have a 3D one here because it's not distorting anything, So the 3D one's kind of cool here, and then again I can pull that down, and maybe I don't need the title, and then I can choose what look I want, and then I can copy that over here and maybe put it on the second page. So now I have a bar graph And so a bar graph works with just about any kind of set of data, whereas the pie graph will be data that it's going to sum up, meaning anytime you have data that's going to sum up to a total, and you can make a percentage, therefore, then you can use a pie graph. By the way, if you want to think about where do those numbers come from the pie graph, you could say, let's insert, and just do a running total. It's going to be this number divided by this number, percentify it. There it is, right? And then that bottom number, I don't want it to move down. I'm going to say F4 on the keyboard. And now when I copy it down, it should give me each number divided by the total. And that gives me a percent, which should add up to 100%, or 1 or 100%. So that's where these numbers are coming from on the pie chart. So again, cool little thing that you can do. If you export it to Excel, you can add, a little something. I know that was kind of long to do, but if you got good at this, you can do it pretty quickly, and then you can add a little something to your reports that almost nobody else is doing.